40th anniversary of Earth Day as a way to like really spark on our campuses and in our communities a time to get more and more people involved in this movement in an organized way. You know, to different student organizations and student government to flash this sign, for you guys to upload it onto like, it's a whole complex thing, but like, you know, uploading it onto like a Ning site so we can all share it together. That we also get their contact information. And you know, we get their emails, their phone numbers, their names, and we say, hey, you're part of this movement now, we're gonna keep you in the loop about what's going on. I think the potential there, if everyone is doing this on their campuses, we can get really like, definitely thousands and thousands of people involved in this campaign, but we could even really go far beyond that if we really work to get other groups to support it on the campus level. One of the things we talked about was how to make this into like a contest where, you know, if you get the most photos, then you'll win a prize or like a package. Obviously, I know like people at this circle here, like, okay, like a little bit of swag and like some tickets to a show or something, like that's a great thing, but I know you're all in it for like the movement and for, you know, what's going on. And so, you know, in the sense of our network, it's really a way to kind of like amp up our network and the amount of people that we're reaching.
We remember back in 1970, it was largely a student movement, but it was also union groups getting together. People walked out on their jobs. People were walking down the streets with coffins filled with soil, like as a symbolic thing. It was actually a very hardcore movement. Earth Day was not a soft thing back then. So we're trying to take that back. This year we're really trying to diversify the environment movement and reshift it, because after Copenhagen failures, there's a lot of people who aren't taking climate change seriously anymore. So we're decentralizing the climate change aspect of it for the 40th anniversary in DC, and we're reaching out to labor groups, reaching out to justice groups, women's groups, faith groups, everyone saying this is about climate change, but it's also about clean jobs, and it's about safe communities, and it's about national security even, because, you know, we're not shipping billions of dollars of petrodollars overseas. And we're trying to unite all these groups on the National Mall in DC to demand that Congress pass a comprehensive climate bill within 2010. My organization, we're bill agnostic. We're not saying cap and trade. We're not saying cap and dividend. We're really kind of just saying get something done now and put it in the system, because otherwise it gets pushed back until 2013. You know, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I definitely want to take a minute with groups, with students from each campus and talk about how we can work to help you guys get down to DC if you want to. My organization got funding to get buses. We're trying to cancel Earth Day, or make angry Earth Day, saying that this is not the time to be planting trees, this is not the time for park cleanups, this is the time to be angry and demand action now. Rather than take that as a threat, we banded together, my organization banded together with these people, and that's part of how our language was formed, that, you know, we're really taking a hardline approach and aggressive stance, saying we need to create action now. This is, you know, the campaign says calling all climate patriots, and that's kind of the idea. We need to like galvanize the American people again to say this is the issue that needs to take forefront. Thank God healthcare went through, so people are really starting to take have the energy to take climate protection seriously again.
It's hard to describe. It's like a Facebook group, except for much more functional with like a forum and a blog, and it's really neat. You guys should all check it out on the computer. We'll get the page up. It's ampupnyc.ning.com, and it's a really great way to share resources. We've started using it with a couple groups at Columbia, and it's been a really effective way to share information.
So we just talked about the Buffalo Power Shift coming up on April 16th through the 18th. I'm going to be driving my old station wagon up to Buffalo, so if anybody wants to get in on that, definitely let me know. Also, we could do some kind of a caravan would be cool. There's a lobby day the night burger's putting together on the 20th up in Albany. So, you know, hopefully some of these people can go on and lobby. So we created an action. You ready to hear what it is? All right, so we talked about kind of like creating a fun action around Earth Day that we can meet on our next meeting can be on April 9th, and that we can prepare our costumes and signs and our emotional beings to get out there and go to the subways and have kind of like a green carnival parading type thing around the subways. And maybe even like connecting in with like what's really this flash mob technology of being able to text in the future of like, hey everybody, we're meeting here, this is our message, this is what we're doing. But basically to meet, we have like a couple of different names that we're working on. Kind of like connecting this idea of being in the subway and the underground, having green environmental, subterranean, submarine. The carnival, subconscious parade, something like along that framework. So yeah, basically what we're talking about is trying it out the week before Earth Day, going in the subways, you know, handing out some literature about Earth Day and what's coming up, what you can do that's green, and then also being out there and like having fun, but like, you know, promoting a really powerful message within that fun. So that is what we came up with, and also having a final kind of meeting or gathering of everybody on April 30th, perhaps at NYU, because they've offered to host us there, the sustainability coordinator, and maybe doing some capacity building, but mostly kind of like setting the stage for next year and having a summit in September to get it done. To amp it up. Is everybody feeling it?
Yeah.
Is that it's very energy intensive. It takes a lot of time to happen naturally, and if you want to make it happen fast, you need a lot of energy to make that happen as well.
Fluids, or gels, or surfactants, or all these different names they have for it. That's basically can be up to or more than 250 different chemicals, some of which are highly toxic, some of which are things that you might have in like your toothpaste. But some of these chemicals are arsenic, benzene, iodine, really toxic chemicals that can cause a lot of health problems. So we'll talk about that some. The frac fluid is needed because it actually is what helps the water in the sand fracture the shell. The industry says with just water and sand, they can break open the shell. So these are just like surface gels that help break open the rock so that we can access the gas within the rock. And the last group someone had asked, which is a big question we're asking, is can this be done safely? Can this be done without all these toxic chemicals? And so far, it hasn't been done without all these toxic chemicals, and the industry has no reason to try, because they're getting away with the way that they're doing it now. So whether gas drilling could occur without mixing the water with toxic chemicals is up for grabs, but the fact that we need to use millions of gallons of fresh water for every well alone is a sign that this is a totally unsustainable process. This is the way that a well looks for this slice view. This is roughly 200 tanker trucks deliver water for the fracturing process. So diesel trucks delivering water up and down rural roads. And then here's the well. The water gets drilled through the well. Usually the well is cased, but not necessarily all the way down. So the water's going through the well, and then the fluids in the water could leak out into other layers before reaching the shell. Reaches the shell, the well starts to turn horizontal and goes horizontally through the shell, and that allows the well to actually create multiple fractures throughout the shell horizontally rather than just one spot vertically and then moving another spot vertically. The amount of wastewater that's produced for the millions of gallons of water, which can be between, they say, 2 to 9 millions of gallons of water for each well, each time that well is drilled. So just thinking about that for a moment, if we were to have thousands of wells throughout New York State, which currently thousands of wells are being leased and are set to be permitted, that's 3 to 9 million gallons of well, times thousands of wells, times maybe each well is drilled 5 to 10 times or less in its lifetime, which means that they will do it, and then they'll come back and they'll try to get more gas, and they'll come back and get more gas, and every time it's less productive, and they do it until they can't get any more gas. So this is enormous vast quantities of water, and because they're treating this water or mixing this water with chemical agents, this water is now contaminated, and in many cases, arguably forever contaminated, irretrievably contaminated, because things like arsenic and benzene cannot be diluted out of the water supply, no matter how much you mix it with local rivers or streams.